The WNBA's brightest star is at a breaking point. Caitlin Clark, arena-filling, record-shattering, history-making.
Never seen a woman play like this.
Caitlin Clark has captured the basketball world.
Has faced months of relentless scrutiny, whispers, and outright hostility. And now insiders say she's done with Team USA. Not injured, not taking a pause. Done. How could the league allow its crown jewel to feel so unwelcome, so expendable? With Olympic snubs, unchecked on-court targeting, and leadership that values ratings over players, the WNBA may have just driven away the very future it claimed to protect. What happens when the golden ticket decides she's no longer playing the game on someone else's terms? This is the full story of ambition, betrayal, and a league on the brink. The snub heard around the world. It started with what many are calling the biggest roster mistake in sports history. A decision so baffling, so transparently political, that it set the tone for everything that followed and revealed exactly how the WNBA establishment viewed their new star. When the Team USA squad was announced for the Paris Olympics, the one name generating all the buzz was nowhere to be found. The player is selling out arenas across America. The player whose games were drawing NFL-level television ratings. The player who had become the most talked-about athlete in women's sports history. Caitlin Clark was left off the roster entirely.
We just had breaking news just a few minutes ago. Caitlin Clark not making the Olympic team despite leading all rookies in points.
The selection committee hid behind the excuse of experience. They claimed Clark hadn't paid her dues yet. They insisted the team needed veteran chemistry to secure the gold. They talked about established systems and proven performers, and the importance of players who had been through Olympic pressure before. Nobody bought it for a second. The team that went to Paris included players Clark had outperformed statistically. It included veterans whose best years were clearly behind them. It included a roster constructed not around winning, but around protecting a hierarchy that felt threatened by the new generation knocking on the door. It was a loud, undeniable message delivered before Clark had even played a professional game. You might be famous. You might be driving all the revenue, but you aren't one of us yet. And until we decide you've earned it, you never will be. That snub wasn't about basketball fit or team chemistry. It was about control. The veterans wanted to show that the system was bigger than any individual, that they could win without the Clark effect, that the rookie needed to understand her place in the hierarchy. They won the gold in Paris, but they lost something far more valuable in the process. Open season on the rookie. If the Olympic snub was a cold shoulder, what happened inside the league once the season started was a full-scale assault. From the moment the first game tipped off, it became clear that certain players had decided Caitlin Clark needed to learn her place through physical punishment. We saw the blindside hip checks, the infamous moment with Kennedy Carter, who leveled Clark with a shot that sent her sprawling to the floor before the ball was even in play.
The moment that made headlines, this right here, the hard foul involving Clark and Kennedy Carter.
It wasn't a basketball move, it was a statement. And when Carter smirked afterward and her teammates celebrated, the message was unmistakable. We saw the hard shoves that went beyond normal post defense, the face guarding designed to intimidate rather than defend. The constant physical targeting that crossed the line from competitive basketball into something uglier. Clark was getting hit harder and more frequently than any other player in the league, and the pattern was too consistent to be coincidental. But the real problem wasn't the players doing the targeting. It was the deafening silence from the league office. The referees let plays slide that would have drawn immediate whistles for established veterans. The league hesitated to upgrade fouls to flagrants even when the contact was egregious. Suspensions that should have been automatic were delayed or never came at all. The message from the top was clear through its absence. This was acceptable. This was just part of being a rookie. This was Caitlin Clark paying her dues. They let the narrative spiral completely out of control. They watched their biggest draw get physically punished game after game and did nothing meaningful to stop it. They prioritized protecting the feelings of established players over protecting the safety of the one player actually growing their audience. And then just when things seemed like they might be cooling down, the commissioner stepped in and made everything infinitely worse. The interview that changed everything. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert sat down for an interview on CNBC that can only be described as a public relations catastrophe.
Kathy Engelbert is the commissioner of the WNBA. She's also a CNBC 2024 changemaker.
What should have been an opportunity to address the toxicity, to stand up for player safety, to unite a fractured fan base instead became the moment that allegedly pushed Caitlin Clark toward the exit. When asked about the dark side of the discourse surrounding Clark, the racism and misogyny flooding social media, the threats that had become a daily occurrence, Engelbert pivoted to a corporate answer that revealed exactly where her priorities lay. She compared the situation to the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird rivalry of the 1980s. She smiled and talked about marketing valuation. She discussed how great this rivalry was for the business of the league, how the attention was driving engagement metrics, how the controversy was actually a positive development from a brand awareness perspective. She completely failed to condemn the hate. She refused to draw a line between competitive basketball and the targeted harassment her players were experiencing. She treated genuine toxicity as just another business metric to be capitalized on, another data point in a quarterly earnings report. It was a massive, unforgivable blunder. And for Clark, it was likely the final confirmation of everything she had suspected about how the league truly viewed her. Imagine being the employee bringing in record profits for your company. Imagine being the reason your colleagues now fly on charter planes instead of commercial flights. Imagine being responsible for the television deals and sponsorship revenue and sold-out arenas that have transformed your industry. Now imagine watching your boss go on national television and say that the people attacking you, the people threatening your family, the people flooding your social media with hate, are just good for business. That is the kind of betrayal that makes a person rethink their loyalty to an organization. That is the moment when you realize that no matter how much value you create, you will never be valued as a human being by the people at the top. The backlash to Engelbert's comments was immediate and furious. The WNBA Players Association, usually a group that supports league initiatives and growth messaging, had to issue a statement distancing themselves from their own commissioner's take. Players like Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier had to step up and say what Engelbert wouldn't, that there is no place for hate in the sport, that the toxicity had crossed a line, that something needed to change. But for Clark, the damage was done. The commissioner had shown her cards, and they weren't pretty. The veterans who feared the future. You cannot tell this story without addressing the elephant in the room. The deep-seated resentment from the old guard that has poisoned the atmosphere around Caitlin Clark since before she was even drafted. For years, Team USA has been a closed club. The same legends, the same circle of friends. Players who have competed together for over a decade, who vacation together, who have built relationships that extend far beyond the basketball court. They created a culture, an identity, a way of doing things that had remained largely unchanged for years. Then Caitlin Clark showed up and threatened to change everything. Rumors flew for months before the Olympic roster was announced that certain veteran players made it clear they didn't want the Caitlin circus disrupting their chemistry in Paris. It wasn't about basketball. Diana Taurasi could have integrated any talented player into the system if she wanted to.
Diana Taurasi is a part of the generation that got us to where we are in women's basketball. And now there's a new generation coming in.
Aja Wilson would have welcomed a shooter who could space the floor and find her in the post. The veterans have played with new faces before and made it work. This was about the spotlight, about who gets the attention, about watching a rookie receive more coverage in her first month than some veterans had received in their entire careers. Taurasi famously warned that reality was coming for Clark, a quote that aged poorly as Clark proceeded to break rookie records. Lead the league in assists and drag a struggling franchise into the playoffs through sheer force of will. The reality that arrived was not the humbling experience the veterans expected. It was the confirmation that the future had arrived whether they liked it or not. By freezing Clark out of the Olympics, the veterans thought they were protecting their legacy. They thought they were maintaining the sanctity of their locker room. They thought they were teaching the rookie a lesson about respecting the hierarchy. Instead, they might have destroyed the bridge to the next generation entirely. They won the gold in Paris, but they lost the public relations war catastrophically. They alienated the millions of new fans who only tuned in because they wanted to see number 22. They proved they could win games without Clark, but they failed to capture the cultural moment that could have elevated women's basketball to unprecedented heights. The walkout that could reshape everything. This is where the story takes a sharp, permanent turn. According to speculation and whispers from people close to the situation, Clark isn't just sitting at home disappointed about missing the flight to Paris. She's allegedly making moves to protect her own brand and her own future. The word circulating through basketball circles is that after being benched by the Olympic Committee, physically targeted by her peers throughout the season, and left unprotected by a commissioner who couldn't even defend her character against hate, Clark has decided to pull her energy away from the national program entirely. It's a power move of the highest order, and she has the leverage to make it stick. Clark knows she generates the ratings. She knows she drives the jersey sales and the ticket revenue and the sponsorship deals. She knows that the WNBA's historic new media rights contract, worth over $2 billion, was signed on the back of the attention she brought to the league. If Team USA doesn't want her, she doesn't need them. She's bigger than the badge right now, and everyone knows it. The rumor is that she has privately signaled she has no interest in future national team invitations if the current culture remains in place. Not a public declaration, not a press conference, just a quiet, firm decision to focus her energy on places where she's actually wanted. If this walkout is real, the fallout is going to be astronomical. We're talking about the face of women's basketball potentially refusing to represent her country because of league politics and institutional abandonment. It turns the tables completely on the power dynamic that has governed women's sports for decades. The WNBA and Team USA banked on the idea that players need the system to survive, that the honor of wearing USA across your chest is the ultimate carrot to dangle, that no matter how badly you treat someone, they'll always come back for the chance at Olympic glory. But Clark has proven she is the system now. By walking away, she deprives them of their biggest marketing asset for the next 4 years. The Los Angeles Olympics in 2028 were supposed to be the crowning moment for women's basketball in America. Home soil, massive audiences, the perfect stage for the sport to take over the world. Without Caitlin Clark, they're trying to sell a product that the new massive audience isn't buying. The numbers that tell the real story. The financial implications of Clark walking away paint a brutal picture for the league. Before she arrived, the WNBA was struggling to turn a profit. Teams flew commercial, arenas were half empty on good nights. Television ratings were modest at best. The league survived on subsidies from the NBA and the hope that someday, eventually, things would turn around. Since Clark was drafted, attendance is up over 40% league-wide. Television ratings have tripled. The league signed that historic media rights deal that transformed the economic landscape of women's professional basketball overnight. The salaries that veterans are now enjoying, the charter flights they now take for granted, the improved facilities and resources. All of it traces back to the attention one player brought to the league. The irony is suffocating. The veterans in the league office treated Clark like an outsider, like someone who hadn't earned her place, like a threat to be neutralized rather than an asset to be celebrated. Yet they're all cashing the checks that her popularity wrote. Every improved contract, every better travel arrangement, every sponsor that decided women's basketball was finally worth investing in, all of it flows from the attention Clark generated. If she decides to focus solely on the Indiana Fever and ignore the global duties of Team USA, she's effectively taking her ball and going home. The national team will still have talented players. Aja Wilson is a generational talent. Breanna Stewart is one of the best to ever play the game. They'll compete and probably win medals, but they won't be cultural icons. They won't move the needle with casual fans. They won't generate the crossover attention that transforms a sporting event into a national moment. That's what Clark brings, and that's what the league is about to lose. The all-star game that proved everything. The all-star game that proved everything. The chemistry excuse used to justify leaving Clark off the Olympic roster collapsed spectacularly during the WNBA All-Star Game. The selection committee had claimed they didn't have time to integrate her into the system. They said her style of play, the fast pace, the high usage, the deep shooting, wouldn't mesh with the slow, methodical approach the veterans preferred. Then the All-Star Game happened and everyone with eyes could see the truth. Clark played alongside other WNBA stars against Team USA in an exhibition format, and they wiped the floor with the Olympic squad. Clark was dropping dimes, hitting shots from everywhere, making her teammates better with every possession. The team built around her looked dynamic and exciting and like the future of basketball.
We know Caitlin will have plenty of opportunities to make Olympic rosters in the future.
The Team USA players look slow and disjointed by comparison. They looked like what they were, a collection of veterans who had been playing together for years, but had stopped evolving. They won their games through talent and experience, but they failed to capture any excitement. That game was the moment the quit narrative shifted from rumor to distinct possibility. Why would Clark want to join a system that actively bet against her style of play? Why would she fight to be included by people who clearly didn't want her there? The All-Star game proved the chemistry excuse was never about basketball. It was about ego. It was about control. It was about veterans who couldn't handle being overshadowed. The silence that speaks volumes usually when rumors this significant start circulating about a major athlete. Their representatives move quickly to squash them. An agent releases a statement. A PR team crafts a message about being proud to represent the country and looking forward to future opportunities. The machinery of sports media management kicks into gear to control the narrative. Clark's camp has been silent, completely, conspicuously silent. That silence speaks louder than any press release could. It suggests the conversations happening behind closed doors are serious. It suggests she's weighing her options and realizing she holds all the leverage. She doesn't need the Olympics to build her brand. She's already a global icon with sponsorship deals and media opportunities that dwarf anything the WNBA can offer. But the Olympics desperately need her to stay relevant to casual fans who don't follow women's basketball year-round. Think about the physical toll this season took on her body. The constant double teams, the full court pressure designed to exhaust her, the physical contact that went uncalled game after game. She played the most minutes of any rookie in recent memory, took more hits than anyone else in the league, and still dragged her team to the playoffs through sheer determination. After all that sacrifice, instead of getting support from the league, she got a commissioner who couldn't even defend her against hate on national television. She got veterans who celebrated when she got knocked down. She got a system that used her popularity to generate revenue while treating her like an unwelcome guest. At some point, everyone reaches their limit. Walking away from Team USA might be Clark's quiet, professional way of saying she's found hers. The road to 2028. The implications for the Los Angeles Olympics are massive. This was supposed to be the crowning moment for women's sports in America. Home soil, the biggest stage imaginable, the perfect opportunity for the WNBA to cement itself as a major global sports property. You cannot have that moment without the most famous female athlete on the planet. If Clark maintains her position and refuses to participate, Team USA will still be competitive. They have incredible depth and talent. They'll probably win medals and play entertaining basketball, but they won't be cultural icons. They'll just be a basketball team doing basketball things. Clark brings the celebrity factor. She brings the viewers who don't normally care about women's sports. She brings the casual fans who tune in because they've heard the name and want to see what the hype is about. Without her, the event loses its luster. The ratings projections collapse. The sponsorship interest diminishes. The moment becomes smaller. The commissioner knows this. The league knows this. And the panic is starting to set in. The WNBA thought they controlled the game. They thought they could shape the future while keeping the golden star on a leash. But Caitlin Clark has rewritten the rules. She's no longer just a player. She's a force that cannot be ignored, a warning that talent alone will not be contained. And now, as the world waits for the next Olympics, one question looms larger than any scoreboard. Who truly holds the power in women's basketball? The league or the player who refuses to play by its rules? The story is far from over, and the next move could change the sport forever.